What's up, everybody? It's M. Sal. I'm back with another book review. The book we're going to be reviewing today is The Emperor of Sound by Timbaland. Now, again, another great book. This book is just intriguing, interesting, tells a good story, talks about the music. This is probably the only book that page 1 to the end is all music. And that's because Timbaland's a purebred. He knew he was musical from the beginning, so all he had to talk about was music. He was somewhat of a prodigy, and from a young age, he was making noises, banging on tables, banging on glasses, beatboxing, making any noise he could, but it didn't sound like noise to him. It was his inner song. And so Timbaland, from a young age, got into DJing. He was DJing parties, making mixtapes. Grew up in Virginia. Started with roaches in the apartment, and moved to a nicer neighborhood. Made some friends. Kind of fell into the wrong crowd. A lot of fights, a lot of stabbings. He himself got shot while working at Red Lobster. Some guy showed up at Red Lobster, and the gun accidentally went off, shot him in the arm. He still has the bullet in his arm. He meets Missy Elliott. Kind of a destiny kind of thing. Missy Elliott just shows up at his house one day, and he said, his friend was like, you gotta meet these girls, you gotta meet these girls. And one day he shows up with Missy Elliott. The rest is history. And then they start working together. Missy's just such an optimistic person. She's like, don't worry, Tim, we're gonna get a record deal. We're gonna get a record deal. It's all gonna fall in line. And she was with her own group. And she goes, oh, we're going to go see Jodeci, and we're going to sing for them. He goes, how are you going to sing for Jodeci? She goes, just watch, Tim, we're going to sing for Jodeci. So she sings for Jodeci. One of the main guys in that group, Devante, took a liking to her, invited her and Tim to work for them. Wasn't working out in New Jersey, so he moved them to LA, and they were working with a group called The Basement, which was pretty much a sweatshop. Honestly, after reading this book, I no longer am a fan of Jodeci. I wasn't even the biggest fan of Jodeci to begin with, but now just seeing how Devante and Jodeci treated people, like, it's just uncalled for. There's no excuse. Timbaland is literally working around the clock, 24/7, living in the studio. They're buying food. Jodeci's buying food for themselves, and Timbaland and all the other producers working in the sweatshop are like eating the pizza crust, finishing the leftover Chinese food off their plates. It was just a bad scene. And then the worst thing that happened to Timbaland working for The Basement was Devante asked Timbaland to take his girl to get something to eat. They drive a few yards in their car, and the snow spins out of control. Devante's girl dies. Timbaland's in the hospital, and that's something he has to live with. So that was a very dark time in the world of Timbaland. And it was kind of a situation, after they hooked up with Death Row, it got even worse. A situation where you can't really just walk out of the house. There's people there watching you, listening in on your phone calls, so it's hard to escape. But Timbaland escaped, and with the help of the Basement engineer, Jimmy, he got signed to a record deal a couple months after he left The Basement. So him and Missy were looking good. They were doing well. It snowballed, led into other things, and Timbaland became who he was. That was just the first step. He paid his dues and became Timbaland. He worked with Missy on her album, Super Duper Fly. Him and Missy hooked up with Aaliyah and turned her into a legend. She unfortunately died, and that hit Timbaland very hard. Timbaland gained a lot of weight, was eating his sorrows away, drinking his sorrows away. It was just very unhealthy. He was supposed to marry this girl. He canceled the wedding at the last minute. When he met his future wife, fell in love at first sight, but they didn't get together until years later. And Timbaland, he hooked up with Jay-Z. He made beats like Big Pimpin' and Dirt Off Your Shoulder, two of Jay-Z's best songs he ever made. And he's worked with a lot of great artists. He worked with Justin Timberlake, made his first solo album. Worked with Kerry Hilson. He had his own record label. I think it was called The Beats, or something like that. And that didn't work out with Jimmy Iovine. He had to cancel it. And then he got his health in check, became even better once he got healthy. started making a lot more hits. And outside of hip hop and R&B, he's making pop hits for top pop artists. And oh yeah, it was rumored that he's a distant cousin of Pharrell. He grew up with Pharrell, and they've been musical, not partners, but they've been really good friends since a young age. Two of the best producers in the game, maybe of all time, and they grew up together. That's insane. They were once as high school kids. They were in a group together that fizzled out when Pharrell wanted to start the Neptunes and became insanely successful with that. Then Timbaland, I worked with Nelly, Furtado. I worked with a lot of greats. Uh, and so yeah, Timbaland, he ended up in his later career, he became the musical voice of the show Empire. If you haven't seen Empire, it's probably one of my favorite shows of all time. If you're a hip hop head, you're gonna love it. And Timbaland, really just a legend out the gate, the Emperor of Sound. He was a child prodigy. He stuck to his music, always felt it in his soul. Grew up on guys like Prince, and he loved Queen. He loved Another One Bites the Dust. He loved anything with a good riff, anything with a good sound. Didn't care who or what it was. If he felt the sound, he loved it. It could be Queen. It could be raindrops falling from the sky. He put anything in his music. He put a basketball bouncing. He would put the sound of a quarter getting flipped. He would do anything. That's why he's so versatile and so great at what he does. He worked with Elton John. Elton John was on one of Timbaland's albums, which is insane. Yeah. He made his first big hit was with Genuine, the song Pony, which he made into Basement. Genuine was in the Basement too. And they escaped. That was the first big song that they got aired and became a classic and a hit. And yeah, that's pretty much it. That's the gist of the book. If you've never read it, if you've never heard of Timbaland, you're sleeping, because Timbaland's one of the best to ever produce in hip hop, and has proved himself in other genres as one of the greats. He's just a legend. And this book, it's an easy read. It's not the biggest book in the world, but 10 out of 10. Any hip-hop head, this is a must-have book. All right? I'm going to come back soon with another book review. I'm M. Sal. Peace.